Today's video is full of questions about the massacre in Maui. Besides looking at FEMA being caught red-handed trying to fool the public, we're gonna look at so much more. You guys have left such amazing comments that certainly have opened my mind to any and all possibilities of what may have actually happened in the Maui fire. I have to ask you, does everything just feel weird? I know it's not right to judge based on appearances, so we won't even go there, but what about our gut? Does your gut feel the weirdest vibes coming out of this whole situation and how it's all unfolding? Is there just one piece of information that doesn't feel corrupted? Just one. Just something we can all agree on that says, yeah, okay, that's factual and makes total sense. Isn't that the role of the news outlets? Since we're not getting answers from the officials, like the death toll, I want you to set aside judgment during this video and allow yourself just to absorb the information and, just like me, consider different theories as to what happened. Respectfully, and in the interest of finding out where the children are and looking at all possibilities, someone asked, what if the children aren't dead? If not, where are they? What really happened to all the children during the time while the police barricaded access to the exits? A video has been published showing trapped Lahaina residents trying to escape while police blocked off roads purposely as they tried to escape the Maui fires.
I just can't freaking see.
Yeah, just put your phone down, all video.
We're not letting anyone up. We're just trying to get out. Now we're out of it.
We can see now. Okay. I can't believe that. It was like black. That was crazy. Wow.
Ooh.
We're good now.
Yep, we're good. We're out.
Yeah. Here's another engine. Let's go.
Yeah.
It was right next to our car.
Right.
Could have reached out and touched it.
I don't know which way to go. I guess just keep going away from the fire.
Yeah. Both sides, to the left and the right, are on fire. It's scary.
As you'll hear, survivors felt like they were in an actual real-life nightmare.
That's all I could hear was get out, get out, get out in my head. Punched the screen part out. Flames and smoke came out of that window that I just jumped out of, and my whole house was consumed with flames. And all around me was, all I could see was fire and smoke and stuff, and it was so eerie. There was not a sound other than flames and cackling smoke, but in the eeriness, I felt I was in a Twilight Zone nightmare.
We never thought during our lifetime that we would ever be in a position like this. It is like, it's like a nightmare. You know, we're in a nightmare. We lost everything. Everybody had hope. Somebody would have a home. You know, at least save one home. But nobody got saved. Everybody lost everything.
The projected number of wildfire deaths remains elusive, with over 1,000 still missing. Another question, are all of the deceased indigenous people? Did they actually wipe out entire generations so that they can't claim their own land? Let's recap. They burnt down people's homes and land, so their homes were basically stolen. People were evicted from their own property. People were trapped in the fire purposely. The water to fight the fire was also turned off. Children are still missing. Food and water for the victims was being withheld. Victims, along with the rest of the world, are still being lied to. Mainstream media is starting to publish articles like this one, which says, in deadly Maui fires, many had no warning and no way out. Those who dodged barricades survived. As flames tore through a West Maui neighborhood, car after car of fleeing residents headed for the only paved road out of town in a desperate race for safety. And car after car was turned back toward the rapidly spreading wildfire by a barricade blocking access to Highway 30. One family swerved around the barricade and was safe in a nearby town 48 minutes later. Another drove their four-wheel drive car down a dirt road to escape. A key takeaway is that only those who disobeyed survived. What really stuck out the most in this article was this. Many of the survivors are angry and haunted by the thought that just a few minutes of notice could have saved many lives. We needed like 10 more minutes and we could have saved a lot of kids if we just had like a 10 or 15 minute warning. Matt Walsh commented after seeing this story saying, just to review, the local government in Maui didn't use the sirens to alert residents to the fire, didn't allow access to water to put out the fire, and blocked the only exits out of town. This is one of the greatest scandals in American history. Many people should be in prison. Even Elon Musk himself chimed in, saying they should be prosecuted if there's any justice in this world. Cernovich tweeted, "Man, this is hard to read for anyone, especially if you have kids. DEI and other ESG mandated policies killed. There are multiple ways Maui ends differently. Alarms go off. Amber sleepy emergency style texts get sent. Water basin for firefighting is filled. On and on. The survivors of the fire in Maui are left homeless, jobless, and without money." Robert F. Kennedy tweeted, "President Biden just offered a $700 payment per household to Maui residents. He's also asking for $25 billion for Ukraine." Let's do a little math. There are about 50,000 households in Maui. $25 billion adds up to $500,000 per household. That gives you some idea of what this nation is sacrificing to fund the war machine. Not to mention, refugees get $2,275. So Hawaiians get $700 to rebuild their entire lives. Why don't you go check out prices for hotels and Airbnbs in Maui and tell me what you can find for $700 there. That might get you 2, maybe 3 nights max. Meanwhile, FEMA officials are living it up in 5-star resorts on Maui.
Hello everyone, Governor Green here. I'm with Deanne Criswell, who is the head of FEMA, and we're honored to have her as we walk through Lahaina and Front Street, where we're seeing the devastation. So thank you for coming.
Absolutely, Governor, and just appreciate you allowing me to come here with you today. And it's so important that I have an opportunity to talk with you and be on the ground and see exactly what happened. I know we're going to go talk to survivors later to have a better understanding of what this impact really is to this community and how we're going to be able to work together to provide creative solutions to support the immediate needs, but also to think about what the long-term needs are going to be.
Now, whenever I hear the word FEMA, it only reminds me of this, which, by the way, this footage was completely wiped from the internet.
Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, had staged a fake news conference Tuesday with agency staffers posing as news reporters.
Had its own employees, you see them sitting down right there, pretend to be reporters and ask the questions.
This is an excerpt of the fake news conference where the FEMA staff asked their boss, well, friendly questions.
Are you happy with FEMA's response so far? I'm very happy with FEMA's response so far to make sure that we understand the situation and can bring the right support to the state. This is a FEMA and a federal government that's leaning forward, not waiting to react. And you have to be pretty pleased to see that. And ask Governor Schwarzenegger what he thinks about FEMA's performance. He'll tell you the same thing, that he couldn't be more pleased how FEMA recognizes the role the federal government is facilitating that effort to the benefit of the state, the communities, and those disaster victims in California. So you have to be really proud at the way our FEMA team is pulled together. So I think as a nation, people should sit up and take notice that you have the worst wildfire season in history in California, and look at how well the state and the local governments are performing. Look at how well we're working together between state and federal partners. It's a good thing to see, and it should be reassuring to the American public that if a disaster does strike our country, whether it's California or hurricane in the Gulf Coast, that we'll do the same thing. We'll pull together to support state and locals.
Being questioned by, well, the country thought they were reporters, but they were FEMA staffers posing as reporters. Homeland Security Chief Michael Chertoff called the staged news briefing, quote, one of the dumbest and most inappropriate things I've seen.
Tuesday, FEMA's deputy administrator held what was called a news briefing to talk about the California wildfires. And from what we understand, the questions were posed not by reporters, but by staffers, and that distinction was not made known. Is that appropriate?
It is not. It is not a practice that we would employ here at the White House. We certainly don't condone it. We didn't know about it beforehand. FEMA has issued an apology saying that they had an error in judgment. It's not something I would have condoned, and I'm sure will not do it again. You'll have to ask them about why they decided to do that.
Will anybody be reprimanded?
You'll have to ask FEMA.
Imagine that. FEMA lied, and have continued to lie to the people of America throughout each tragedy. Galliano Tiramani is the founder of Boxable, which are basically tiny homes that unfold in an instant to provide immediate shelter. Galliano tweeted, "I've reached out to every government contact I can think of to try and get our houses to Maui, but gotten no response. Boxable is prepared to divert 200 houses to Maui today. If anyone can help make that happen, email me." On yesterday's update, we discussed how the Maui police chief, John Pelletier, is also the coroner, but we were left with so many questions. For one, how does Pelletier, who worked in the Las Vegas desert, suddenly then transfer to the small island of Maui and become the first non-native chief so easily? The only connection I see between Vegas and Maui is that they refer to Vegas as the 9th island. How does a close-knit community like Maui look at this guy's resume, see he was deeply connected and in charge of the deadliest shooting in US history, and say, hey, you're hired, and while you're at it, here's a 30% boost in your income? Who else came over to the island of Maui that has a dark history like this guy? What other officials are behind the scenes and are connected to this massacre? Pelletier is poisonous, and what he's saying simply does not make sense.
When we find these, our family and our friends, the remains we're finding is through a fire that melted metal.
I'm sure plenty of you have seen these videos that have been coming out of Maui of vehicles literally melting onto the street. The aluminum is literally melting out of the vehicles, and the melting point for aluminum is 1220 degrees Fahrenheit. That's just crazy because, as you can see in this next video, none of the asphalt has melted along with this. And you would expect that to happen in fires that are reaching over 1220 degrees. And the melting point of asphalt is 343 degrees Fahrenheit. So make that make sense.
We have to do rapid DNA to identify them. So when we pick up the remains and they fall apart, that's what you're stepping on. I don't know how much more you want me to describe it. That's what you're stepping on.
So as a former funeral home owner and licensed funeral director for over 2 decades, I worked very extensively and closely with our local crematory. I was taught by that crematory that they need to cremate in between 2,000 and 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So the question is, how hot were those fires to be able to incinerate or cremate human remains? We know that it was at a higher level than 1,500 to 2,500 because it melted the rims on the vehicles. Why are there no bodies in the cars?
All right, so you guys left a lot of comments, and you commented about the date 8/8 as well as HAARP, dew, and the color blue. Newsweek is trying to debunk theories about blue objects and direct energy weapons, as those two topics keep rising to the top of social media conversations with regards to the Maui fire. Look, I'm not going completely down the rabbit hole of dew just yet, but so many of you have asked me to talk about it, so we're just going to dip our toes in it for today. The first thing I saw was this.
Look behind you. Insane. Whoa, did you see that just shoot across? Did anyone else see that?
Now, like I said, a lot of you have also asked, what's up with the color blue in the Maui fire? The theory is that a blue wave laser can start a fire instantly from a distance, and when it does, the only thing left standing is anything with the same color of the laser beam. Blue. Now, I know we're talking about lasers here, and at first I thought it was absolutely nuts. But how do you explain this?
A lot of things that are blue, for some reason, stood the test of the fire. That this blue car in these homes had blue in it. I mean, it gets weird. Here, blue survived it. The cloth, the boat that survived in the ocean, and these are all just the mainstream articles showing this. The boat was blue. The car that survived, right, it's still blue. And I mean, this is what they showed in the mainstream news.
Okay, guys, this is the last episode I'm going to do for a while, but it should be a pretty good one. It's things that did not burn during the fire. I went through hours of footage, and it was pretty interesting what I found. Here are the famous umbrellas. These are actually Tommy Bahama umbrellas. Then the sole surviving car on Front Street in front of the outlet mall. And I actually found another sole survivor car the other direction that's a little bit further south on Front Street. You can see it on the left in this frame here.
And then, without getting too deep into it on this video, there's also HAARP.
The intense energy being beamed into the sky by HAARP is actually heating up the atmosphere, causing weather changes.
HAARP is being used for weather modification. The military's own record proves it. They've admitted it within their own documents, and yet they still deny it to the public.
Even mainstream media has reported on weather modification.
And now we're learning that scientists and researchers are looking at how to change the weather on purpose. That's right. Lasers now could one day manipulate rain and lightning.
Well, instead of doing a rain dance, we physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts. This is potentially a game changer. Governments have been playing with this thing.
Alleged to.
Alleged to, right.
Yeah.
Now, we realize that for decades now, these governments have been alleged to have experimented with weather control.
All right, I think we're going to leave it right there for today. If you feel I earned it, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. Continue sharing your thoughts with all of us by leaving a comment below. Please also let me know which topics you'd like me to research for future videos. As always, I truly do appreciate your continued support and for taking the time to watch this video. Have yourself an amazing day and please take care.